And in the Impact segment tonight, the latest in the George Zimmerman murder trial. As you may know, Trayvon Martin's mother testified it was her teenage son screaming for help on the 911 call. But today, the lead police investigator in the case told the jury that Trayvon's father said it wasn't his son on the tape. Also, a variety of Zimmerman supporters said it was the accused murderer who was crying for help. A mess, right? Finally, the judges ruled that the jury can hear about traces of marijuana being in Trayvon Martin's system at the time of his death. Joining us now from Washington, Fox News contributors Mary Katharine Ham and Juan Williams. So, Juan, is the case all about race? And if so, are you seeing bad things if Zimmerman is acquitted?
Yeah, of course it's all about race. It's been all about race from the start. Remember when the media, I think, unfairly libeled Zimmerman, making him out to be some KKK guy who has profiled Trayvon Martin right from the start, described him to police as black. We later learned they had played with the tape to make that happen. And I think right now, it's sad to me because I think the media now is playing to the most primitive racial divisions. Conservatives are supposed to back Zimmerman. Liberals are supposed to back Trayvon Martin. I think it's become like, for them, an O.J. Simpson, Rodney King redo. And the second part of your question, already you see that in Sanford, Florida, religious leaders, civic leaders are now having to go out and hold meetings with the community, try to say don't have a riot if somehow, Zimmerman is acquitted of this crime.
What do you think, Mary Katharine? Do you think bad things are going to happen if Zimmerman is acquitted?
Well, I mean, I pray that they don't, and I'm glad that there are civic leaders involved and on this issue. But I do think that when you have the entire media really jumped to make this a racial morality play from the very beginning. And
how is the media doing that? Juan cited a couple of bogus things that came out of NBC News, doctored tapes that made Zimmerman look like a racist in the very beginning of the case.
Right.
We expose that here. But how does the media continue to make this all about race and not justice?
Well, I think from the very beginning, when they referred to it as a very simple, frankly, white and black issue, when that was not the case for Zimmerman, certainly he was raised in a multiracial household, so it was a lot more complicated than what they first presented. And I think once they went in hard on that narrative, they sort of had to back it up as we went along, and there were media reports referring to Zimmerman as a white Hispanic, which, whatever that means. So the problem is when you make something into a national conversation about race in this country, it's pretty likely you're actually not going to be having much of a conversation because it becomes on its face racist to examine the facts and bring up the fact of Zimmerman's upbringing or what have you. And then you get to the situation where we have a reasonable doubt system, and it is not necessarily going to come down in exactly the way that the media decided and everyone decided it should.
All right, so then what happens, Mary Katharine, if the man is acquitted? Look, the reportage last week across the board, not only on the Fox News channel, but on the other news agencies as well, said the prosecution presented a weak case. I didn't hear anybody say the prosecution presented a strong case. I didn't hear anybody. And today, you get the 911 thing just devastated, just thrown out, because the mother, Trayvon Martin's mother, was an effective witness last week, and now today it's all gone because a number of people say, oh, no, it was Zimmerman's voice and then the father and all this. So if the prosecution did present a weak case, and that, again, is the consensus of the media following it, even the liberal media.
Yeah.
And he does get acquitted, Mary Katharine. I mean, are you expecting people to run out and cause trouble?
Look, I think some people will react emotionally. I think it's been emotionally charged from the beginning, and part of that is the way it was portrayed by the media from the very beginning. Part of it is also a genuine grievance. So you both agree there's a possibility for damage to be done to the fabric of the nation if this verdict comes in as an acquittal. If it comes in as guilty, I don't think there's going to be any violence. I think there will be people who will be angry.
But let me just say, there's damage done to the fabric of the country by the way I think the media's portrayed it and the way it's been handled. Look, if my kid walks up to your house, Bill O'Reilly, and some guy says, oh, I saw a black kid walking up to Bill O'Reilly's house, so I shot him. I mean, you'd be like, what is going on here? So if a black guy shot a white kid, and they said, oh, the kid was carrying Skittles and iced tea, but you know what? These punks get away with it all the time. People would say, this is, you know what? Forget who was on top of who and who was punching who. Why was a guy with a gun deciding that he had to act violently against this kid with
an iced tea? That's for the jury to decide. That you have to basically buy into the 6 women sitting there are going to do the right thing based upon the evidence and their convictions of what
well, you have to
the
pray.
evidence
It's an
says.
all-white. Well, I think it's 5 whites and 1 Hispanic on that jury. It's kind of odd to me, but so be it. You have to hope. But it just seems to me there's something crazy here when this black kid unarmed.
Yeah, but Juan, you're
threatening
almost
anybody,
fueling.
gets shot
You're almost fueling the potential violence here by
No,
saying that.
Probably not.
You
Yes,
are.
come on,
Well,
Bill.
there's something in. You
The
know,
other thing is-
let the facts be presented and the jurors decide. Go ahead, Mary Katharine.
I was just going to say, I do think part of the emotion comes from the fact that there are genuine grievances in the black community with the justice system. For instance, the fact that black men are arrested for marijuana use at far higher rates than white people, even though the usage rates are the same. So there's some of that that comes from that, but I don't think this is the way to actually address those by turning this into a discussion that becomes tainted by race at every turn.
Bottom line, both of you feel that there is a strong potential for violence if an acquittal comes down. And I think the media
sounds
now,
like the community is
we have
engaged.
to now, the media, try to tamp that down. All right?
Yeah.
Start now.